Tolbert and Copes with you Wednesday afternoon. A pleasure to be joined by our next guest. You'll hear him starting next week on KNBR weeknights from 6 to 7 p.m. Niners Nightly. And, of course, you can see him on the Krueger Show. It's our guy Larry Krueger joins us on the Yuma Guest. What's up, Krug?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Down here in Santa Clara, just walked off the practice field.
Well, you were on the practice field. Somebody else was not, I was told.
Yeah, we were waiting for Brandon Aiyuk. We were told that there was a very good chance he was going to practice today, but he's not here. So I don't know what to say about it. I do kind of feel like, the other question is he's not here, and the doctors have cleared him from his quote-unquote back injury. So now the question is, are the 49ers going to fine him for missed days? Shanahan was asked that question about a half hour ago and paused for a long time and was like, I'm not really sure. So, I'm not really sure what to make of it. I do kind of feel like this is the pressure point in the negotiation, though. If they start to try to levy fines against him, I think things could go south pretty quick.
Was Terrence Marshall on the practice field?
Oh, dude, you're the relentless Terrence Marshall.
No, not yet. Not yet. And that was actually erroneously reported by Schultz. I think they said he was on the active roster. If he does sign, it will be on the practice squad. And Lynch just said that, Hankerson, the wide receiver coach, and Kyle really, really liked him. They don't know what happened in Carolina. They feel like he's the player that he was at LSU, and they feel like he'll be better here. So we'll see.
So let me ask you this. When's the last time you asked about a player and they said, yeah, we really don't like him, but we owed him a favor?
Yeah.
He's just here for numbers.
I know his uncle. Yeah, I know his uncle, so we figured we'd get him in.
I got a dad. I had a bad run, 3-team parlays about 5 years ago, and I needed to put him on there to make things right with the man. So
what do you think of player X? Camp body. He's a camp body.
Yeah, he's just there. He's just taking up space. What kind of demeanor did John Lynch and Kyle have? It seemed like John was a little more frustrated than Kyle was, because of course Kyle's got a coach, so he's got to worry about the team that he has right now. He can't worry too much about what's going on, but it just we didn't see it. I didn't see it anyway, but it sounded like Lynch there's a little bit of frustration. Did you sense that at all?
Oh, definitely, Tom, definitely. And he at one point said there has been great communication between us and Trent, and then immediately the follow-up question came, hey, has there been how would you term the communication with Brandon? And he smiled, paused, and said, there's been communication.
Yeah. Which is different than good communication, which he clarified for Trent Williams right before.
Yeah.
I think the one word means all the difference in the world.
Yes.
The good communication versus the communication. But, and then Shanahan out of nowhere kind of, if you went back and looked at that transcript today, he's like, out of nowhere, without anybody really pushing him on it, he's like, all options are still available in regards to Aiyuk. So, I hate to say it because I know Niner fans are gripping about this and nobody wants to see him traded, but I think him being traded is a very distinct possibility still.
Well, if he's not out there right now, we're talking to Larry Krueger on the Yuma Guest Line. That was kind of my thought, is if he's not out there right now when they're like, okay, we're drawing the line in the sand, you've been cleared, you're healthy, there's no more hold in, we got to start preparing for the start of the season, either with you or without you. And if it's without you, we need to figure out what the future is for him here. I thought of the three options of the playing on the franchise tag, signing the extension, and being traded. Playing on the franchise tag to me seemed like the least likely option. It now appears to me that that's still maybe on the table.
Well, you mean the
fifth-year option. Excuse me, not the franchise tag, the fifth-year option, my mistake.
Yeah, which is still a ton of money, right? $14.1 million, but it's half of what he's hoping to get as far as a long-term deal. Yeah, I mean, I personally, guys, don't think that's an option. I know, there's the people that say, just make him play on the fifth-year option. I think would become a real negative influence. Now, I'm not saying he's not a pro. He's a pro, but I think his discontent would be hard for him to hide, and I think it would create a bad vibe in their room. So I don't think the fifth-year option is viable. I personally think they're either going to get something done or they're going to move this guy on.
We haven't talked about it hardly at all, and I didn't hear anybody ask either Lynch or Kyle about Christian McCaffrey. Are we? I'm assuming that the calf is fine, he's good, and he's in line to be 100% week one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, I just walked by him walking off the field, and he's working out diligently on the side, and I think they just once you get the calf strain, the last thing you want is the calf tear. The calf tear is tragic, right? That kills your year, or at least half the year for sure, maybe the whole year. So as soon as he had the calf strain, they're like, you know what, we're going to shut it down. We're just going to let him do his thing at his own pace and get ready for the Jets how he sees fit. So, yeah, he's on the side field, but he's been out here on every practice, so he hasn't really skipped any days. So I think he's progressing towards week 1.
Is there a hope/belief that Ricky Pearsall could be healthy enough to play week 1? And if he is, has he had enough reps to play week 1?
Someone said, a buddy of mine asked me, Krueger, you're out there every day, man. What's he looking like? I'm like, he's looking like a ram. He's wearing a blue jersey every day. The guy wears a blue jersey, and that's good, but it's the jerseys are red here. He's got a shoulder that obviously is going to probably need some kind of surgical deal. I don't know if he can withstand the pain and they can hold off on that and do that in the off season, or at some point if he's going to relent and have surgery and be on the shelf. So I think there's a lot of options available there. They're going to slow play it because they do have great numbers at wide receiver, and they took Ronnie Bell and they added Terrace Marshall to the practice squad. So they feel good about their depth there. They love him as a player. In fact, they love him more than the day they drafted him because they've seen his work habits and the way he practices. But hey, man, you got to play, right? You got to get out there on the field and play. And so far he has been unable to get out there.
Larry Krueger, the voice you hear on the Uma guest line. Niners Nightly starts next week, every night of the week on KNBR from 6 to 7 p.m., and you'll get it over on YouTube. In terms of Isaac Guerendo, who's out with not out, but I guess he tweaked his groin, Kyle said on Monday. Are we looking at returners that are going to be 2 rookies, a kick returner rookie and a punt returner rookie in Cowen?
Those have been the best 2 guys. Cowen's been the best punt returner, and Guerendo, you saw it with the 93-yard kickoff return. And it's funny, that question came up literally like, oh, yeah, by the way, at the end. I don't even know if Kyle was going to tell us that he had the groin strain. So it sounds like Guerendo may not be there week 1 against the Jets. But obviously he showed how dynamic he is. I mean, Cody Schrader, by the way, wound up on the Rams today.
That's a bummer.
Which I thought that was a little gamesmanship by McVay with the Niners and Rams playing in the first month to try to steal a player like Schrader. But Guerendo kind of outplayed him. As soon as Guerendo hit the field and showed that 4.3 speed at 225 or whatever he weighs, it was like game over for Cody Schrader.
I get the feeling we're making too much out of the kick return and the kick returners, because from what I've seen in the preseason, and granted it wasn't a lot, but it didn't seem like there was a whole big advantage to kicking it off versus just blasting it out of the end zone.
Take the 5 yards, right.
And taking it at the 30. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of that week 1. I think for most of the games I saw, it wasn't enough of an advantage to not say, you know what, we'll give him the ball at the 30 instead of getting it at forcing him to take it at the 27 with the possibility of a bigger return. So I think it's going to end up being much ado about nothing. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I mean, the average field position on kickoffs in the preseason was like the 28.5-yard line.
Great.
If you boot it, so why would you put somebody at the 28.5 and take a chance they could take it to the house? Why not just boot it through the back of the end zone and give them the 1.5 yard, for your effort? Because that's really it. I mean, you're going to put the ball at the 30. They screwed that up. I mean, they really should amend that. If they should either push the kicker back so that it's impossible to kick it through the back of the end zone, or make it more punitive to kick it to the back of the end zone. But to just say, well, the ball comes to the 30, why would you risk somebody running it back like Guerendo did if you could just put him on the 30-yard line and kick it through the back of the end zone? So, yeah, this whole thing is going to be much ado about nothing. But I think they'll tweak it in the future to make it a little bit more relevant, let's say.
A little bit of an update as well. Leonard Floyd back in practice today after the tweak of the ankle in the Friday night preseason finale against the Raiders. You asked the question, I believe, to Kyle in his media session earlier today, Larry, about the depth at defensive end. Do you believe that's a thin position right now?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm shocked that this is a team that used to have, like a couple years ago, think about all the Sheldon Day and all these guys, and they had all kinds of backups, and Abu Kam and a Menahue and all these guys. Now all those guys are gone. And Robert Beal is defensive end 4. Drake Jackson's out for the year. So, yeah, I think they're really, really thin there. But maybe that's a good sign that Yatir Gross-Matos and Leonard Floyd's
injuries are not that major. I know Gross Matos is week to week, so obviously his is considered a little bit more serious. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that maybe their lack of. I mean, Kyle basically told me, "Hey, I like our depth at defensive end. I feel good about it. I feel like we can win with it." So we'll see, because the Kwanu from Maryland was a practice squad guy that's not really highly regarded, and he made the team. So.
Is it even a debate, Krug, to say that without Trent Williams, the offensive line is the weakest unit on this team?
Yeah, I mean, they were 17th last year in some of the rankings that I saw with him. And if you take him out, and not only, it's not just that you take him out, Tom, it's that they don't really have a proven tackle.
Yeah.
And right now they're going with 3. I think Chris Hubbard potentially could get re-signed back to the practice squad to be their 4th. But yeah, I mean, they could get into a game against the New York Jets, who have a very good defensive line with Colton McKivitz and Jalen Moore in week 1, and they could put Brock Purdy in a bad spot. So they're really gambling. They're really, for a team that's got Super Bowl aspirations. Man, I mean, these negotiations have clearly had an impact on the start of their year.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, now that we're just looking towards week 1, and I know we'll get into it next week as football officially starts a regular season next week after Labor Day weekend, but against the Jets and that defensive line, don't feel great about this week 1 without Trent Williams.
No, I mean, Trent is just such a special player that he's the dominant player at his position. Even at 36 or whatever he is, he's still the dominant player at his position. So, yeah, you take him. I mean, getting him for what the price they paid was maybe the greatest trade in the history of the league, and not having him could be a crusher, especially in that first month.
How much of an impact do you think Jacob Cowen could make, not in the punt return game, but on offense? Do you think he'll get many snaps, or do you think he'll just be mostly used as a punt returner and maybe get a few snaps here and there?
Well, he's really natural as a punt returner, but, without Aiyuk, I think Cowen represents a dynamic playmaking option down the field that it's really important in football to have that space-creating piece. They cut Danny Gray. Cowen is their vertical speed. So I know the plan probably, if you ask Kyle, would be like, we don't want to play him too much. We don't want to overextend him early, especially because he had the hamstring. But I think they're going to be really tempted to get him out there to try to stretch the field vertically a little bit and create space underneath. And so I think they'll utilize him a little bit more than people think.
Well, Larry Krueger, the voice you hear on the Yuma guest line, Brandon Aiyuk was not at practice. Krueger was until he saw that Aiyuk wasn't. Then he's like, I'm going to call Tolbert and Cobes.
I'm out of here.
Let them know. You get out of there, dude. Get some rest, and we'll hear you again. Niner Nightly starts next week, Monday from 6 until 7. Looking forward to it, dude.
Fired up. I got to talk to, I got the good lead-in, so how could I lose?
When you get the KNBR plug-in for Dante Whitner during the press conference, so we appreciate that, too.
Did you like that?
I did like that. I heard Dante Whitner on KNBR. I was like, nice way to get that in, crew. Good work.
See that? Yeah.
Good work. Like you never left.
I'm hustling down here.
Like you never left. Good to see you, bro. Talk to you later.
See you, Krug.
Sounds good, guys. See ya.
Larry Krueger, the voice you hear from Levi Stadium down in Santa Clara after Kyle and John both met with the media, and then Brandon Aiyuk did not meet with his teammates at practice. All that for naught. Brandon Aiyuk did not attend practice, and imagine there will be some fines or some punishment levied, but as Krueger said, he still believes everything still on the table, and I think I kind of believe that too after the way John was talking, and then he did not show up to practice today. We've gotten into this pretty deeply. We got some